It will be the 96th time the Wave and the Rams meet to settle their differences. Darien was victorious the last time these two teams competed, but New Canaan has not lost a Turkey Bowl since 2016. This year it's coming back to Darien High School, and as always, we're ready for it. Welcoming you from the stadium field, I'm DeRiso alongside Braden Schenck for the second ever edition of High School Gameday presented by DAF Media. We are closing in on kickoff, and Braden, soon enough we will be right back out here Thanksgiving morning for the most highly anticipated game of the year. Yeah, it's the highlight of the season for both of these squads. Both coaches, players, families, and communities have just been counting down the days to Turkey Bowl XXVIII, and it's almost here, and it's very exciting to see this game play out. The conditions here this morning for us, 35 degrees, windy, similar to the conditions that we should be seeing on game day. Yeah, you know, football's a game played in these brutal weather, and both of these teams are known for their rushing games to start, and I think with this colder weather, it's just going to get the running backs of Telesco and Wilson going even more so. The passing game might see a little bit of a decrease this year, especially the kicking game. I know could see a decrease, but Tigeroff has definitely battled the worst elements in this, so it's going to be interesting what both these teams do. As we mentioned earlier, for Darien, this game returns to the friendly confines of the stadium field here at home. The last time this game was played here, though, things did not look good for the Wave, and for New Canaan, there was a lot to celebrate. Yeah, Darien, they sent their fans home disappointed in 2019. They were blanked by the Rams 20-0, a game that the offense just couldn't get going for Darien. The New Canaan defense was really the MVP of that game, and they rode that to I think it was their second or third straight Turkey Bowl win in 2019. So they played well. Darien just couldn't get the job done at their home field. And you got to keep in mind, in 2022, Darien's already lost 2 games at home here this year. They lost to Maloney and Greenwich. They're only 500 at the Darien High School Stadium field, looking to rewrite that and get the home field advantage back on their side. Braden, that successful defense from New Canaan, a theme we saw in the last Turkey Bowl too, a very low-scoring affair. Why don't you walk us through it? One of the lowest-scoring Turkey Bowls in recent memory, and it was an offensive stalemate at Dunning Field. The offensive likes of Miles Drake and Ty Comiskey, as well as Henry Cunny and Big Cognetta for the Rams, were all kept at bay in that one. This stalemate would see the Rams get the best of the Wave 12-7 as Rams fans stormed the field at Dunning Stadium. It was the 4th straight Turkey Bowl that the Rams had taken over Darien, and the Wave continued their drought of another bowl. The eventual state champion, Blue Wave, did get another shot at New Canaan a couple weeks later back at Dunning. That one went a little bit differently. Yeah, it's a whole different game in December come state playoff football, and Darien put that Turkey Bowl loss behind them, and they were able to beat the Rams 14-10. They applied the early pressure thanks to a pair of touchdowns from Jeremiah Stafford. Isaac McMullen would kick a field goal, and Ty Comiskey would rush another score in for Darien, giving them the commanding 24-10 win in the state semifinal. This was crucial that Darien could put that Turkey Bowl loss behind them, and they took care of business using that en route to the state championship a season ago. Braden, we talk about the state championship, the state playoffs. This is a big game for Darien to get back to those state playoffs. The Blue Wave usually coming into the Turkey Bowl as the favorite. They came in last year undefeated. They came in 2019 undefeated, 6-3. That's something you don't see often from Darien. New Canaan, on the other hand, 8-1. They've already locked down their position in the playoffs. What does this mean for Darien? I mean, I would say this is a must-win. Yeah, it is a must-win for head coach Mike Forget's guys. As you mentioned, it's a different story for Darien this year. The past 2, they've come in undefeated. They took a blemish to their record. This year, they need to win this game to make the state playoffs. They have teams like Cheshire, Shelton, New Milford that all potentially could bump them out of the playoffs where they lost for Darien. So they need this to apply the pressure. They need to beat New Canaan, and they're doing this just to get a 7 or 8 spot in the playoffs. So it's a must-win game for Darien, and they want to be playing later this year. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here in a moment for High School Game Day on the DAF Media Network. Welcome back to High School Game Day. DeRiso, Braden Schenck. Now, Braden, this is the fun part. Let's take a look around the area at some of the other Turkey Bowl games going on.
We have a great slate of games here on this Thanksgiving week. We have crosstown rivals meeting, powerhouses battling it out, and then brand new rivalries being formed in 2022. Starting in Richfield, we have our standalone kickoff game on Wednesday night. The Richfield Tigers will take on the Danbury Hatters from Richfield. And that's a game that the Tigers sit in 9th place in the Class XXL standings, needing a win to make the playoff push and try to get into the top 8. As for Danbury, they're on the outside looking in. They had a nice winning streak to start the season, but have cooled down as of late, having lost their last 3 games. So both the Tigers and the Hatters will look to end their season off with a bang. Again, that game is Wednesday night, so not on Thanksgiving, but a good way to kick off this slate of games. Moving over to Westport, we see one of our most intriguing matchups of the morning. We see the 8-1 Staples Wreckers battle the 8-1 Greenwich Cardinals, and we know this Greenwich team. They came to Darien. They have the offensive likes of Jack Wilson, the running game with Von Velakis, Konigsberg. On the defense, Galetta leading them. So this is a team that can do damage anywhere on the field, and the Cardinals just need one win to clinch the FCIAC regular season title. So one win for the Cardinals, they have themselves an FCIAC trophy, and if Staples win, they will force one giant tiebreaker for the FCIAC trophy. So that game is Thanksgiving morning at Staples Stadium. At Walter Kennedy Stadium in Stamford, we see the Stamford High Black Knights take on the West Hill Vikings in the Battle of Stamford. A year ago, they met at Boyle Stadium, and both teams entered winless. In 2022, the 3-6 Knights will battle the 2-7 Vikings in a game that both teams will look to take home the heart of Stamford. In Trumbull, the magical season of St. Joseph is looking to cap off their season with a win against crosstown foe Trumbull High. The 8-1 Hogs enter play in first place of the Class L standings. As for Trumbull, they sit in the middle of the Class XXL standings. So this game means a lot for both of these teams, and it's going to be an offensive field day at Dowling Field. You know the names for the Hogs: Will Singwald, Brandon Hutchison, Riley Jordan, and they're going to go up against their Trumbull counterparts and Luca D'Antonio, Hunter Augustine, and Rowan Johnston. These have been 2 of the biggest offenses this entire season, and they're going to be going up against each other for the Battle of Trumbull in 2022. Moving over to Taft Field, we have the Battle of Fairfield, where the 5-4 Fairfield Ward Mustangs will take on the 4-5 Fairfield Ludlow Falcons. This is a game that both teams have already been eliminated from the playoff contention, so neither team really can make the playoff push, but they're both going to look to win over Fairfield and try to take down a crosstown rival in a huge game for Fairfields. Shifting over to Bridgeport, Connecticut, we see one of the oldest rivalries in the FCIAC, the Bridgeport Central Hilltoppers taking on the Warren Harding Presidents. Both of these teams are winless this season at 0-9, but this will be the 101st time that the Hilltoppers and Presidents meet. This is a rivalry that dates all the way back to the 1920s, and they will take center stage at John F. Kennedy Stadium in Bridgeport to what should be a sold-out stadium. And our final game is the Battle of Norwalk. The 1-8 Norwalk Bears taking on the 3-6 Brian McMahon Senators. This is a game that both teams have struggled this season. The Bears graduating the likes of Cam Edwards to graduation in the spring. He's now off running for the Yukon Huskies. And as for Brian McMahon, they just have struggled throughout this season on the offense and defense. So both the Norwalk Bears and the Brian McMahon Senators will enter evenly matched to look to bring their A game on Thanksgiving morning at Casa Grande Field.
Certainly a lot of great action across the FCIAC for this Thanksgiving week. Now let's get back to our Turkey Bowl, and there's one specific thing I want to mention. That's the uniforms. We're going to be getting more of a classic look this time around. In recent years, we've seen Darien and New Canaan both electing to wear black in their home Turkey Bowl campaigns. This year, Darien coming with the blue out, New Canaan with the likely white out. That choice, of course, up to the captains, and we talked to those same captains about the Turkey Bowl, so let's see what they had to say.
And being like, big guys on campus is a huge feeling, and it feels amazing, honestly. It's like, we worked so hard all year for this, and playing, for a game, first day playoff spot, it's just amazing. It feels so good.
There's always nerves going to the Turkey Bowl. I mean, especially when you're playing a good team like Darien, and every single year it's a different show. It's the same show with just a different cast of characters.
You grow up as a DJFL player, you're always looking forward to the Turkey Bowl, especially your senior Turkey Bowl. So I know all of us are really excited for that.
Growing up in those stands watching the Turkey Bowl, there's so many great memories, some okay ones, but, we're feeling really motivated right now, honestly. I've seen guys the most excited they've been all year, so we're really excited.
Big game, but, it's another one of the games on the schedule, and we're looking to, beat them and then move on to the playoffs.
It's just a chance, for any team to stamp their legacy on the program, and, I'm excited to, write that next chapter for this team.
Now let's go through some of the strengths offensively and defensively for both of these teams. We're going to start with the Darien offense.
Yeah, you can't talk about this Darien offense without mentioning the running back, Jake Wilson. Currently with 771 yards and 12 touchdowns this season, Jake has been at the core of this Darien offense. Wilson's been dealing with an injury that's kept him out the past 2 weeks, and it's going to be interesting if he's as good as new come game day. On the receiving end, Trevor Herget is the main name. It seems like acrobatic plays are just routine for him, and he's been mossing players all over the field this year with senior starting quarterback Simeon Dahl. Dahl, of course, with 1,746 passing yards and 21 passing touchdowns on the season. Darien has struggled to convert in the red zone all season, and it's going to be the big question mark emerging game day.
And Braden, you talked about Jake Wilson. I talked to him this week. He said he's riled up, ready to go for the Turkey Bowl, but as far as whether he will play or not, that'll be a game-time decision. Braden, you also can't forget about senior captain James Tom, the Tufts commit leading that offensive line who's been supporting Wilson this year. That'll certainly be a factor for the Darien offense. Now let's look at the New Canaan's offense, because they've been pretty successful themselves.
They have indeed a much different look from head coach Lou Marinelli's squad, graduating the likes of Henry Tunney and Vin Cognetta, but luckily he has the two-way athlete of Ty Groff to step up and fill that vacancy at the quarterback position. Groff is joined by senior running back Hunter Telesco in the backfield. This is a Rams team that is rush heavy, as Telesco has seen 129 carries for 950 yards and 14 touchdowns on the season. Compare that to only 3 passing touchdowns from the Rams all season. A big part of that was injuries. Groff missed the first 3 games at quarterback with an injury. Preseason wide receiver 1 on the depth chart, Max Alert, having an ACL injury that has kept him sidelined all season. And top rushing option, Dom Rasso, has also been sidelined for the season. So the next man up mentality for the Rams has really been present this season.
Certainly, Lou Marinelli's offense have seen its fair share of adversity, we must say. Let's talk about their defense, though.
Yeah, New Canaan, this is the defense that New Canaan fans are accustomed to seeing, the same defense that has showed up and played in the past 2 Turkey Bowls and has been present all season. Last year in the Turkey Bowl, senior Chad Russo broke the school's record for sacks. With his departure, the likes of Matthew Salmini, Walker Blair, Will Pepe, and Javier Perez Soto have stepped up for this team. The Rams defense has only surrendered 82 points all season. In the secondary, 22 turnovers in favor of the defense, including 13 fumble recoveries. New Canaan will make you pay with an error on the running game, or really an error anywhere on the field. If New Canaan's defense shows up on game day against Darien, it's going to be a tough time for Simeon Dahl and co.
I think we can both agree that the defenses are certainly the strengths of these teams. So let's take a look at the Darien defense now.
Oh boy, 28 points against number 2 Greenwich, 21 against number 3 Maloney, and 14 points against number 5 St. Joe's. All 3 of those season lows for those respective squads. That has been the story of the Darien D in 2022, not giving up that many points to the good teams, with the big-time tacklers such as Leighton Reeser and J.D. Brennan hurrying the quarterback, and the D-line of Jack Barber, Carter Hagan, and Dash Ross snuffing the opposition rush. The Darien defense has been the most consistent part of this team this year. Robert McElhouse leads the secondary with his 2 interceptions, and the Williams-bound Jack Barber leads the team with 3 sacks. You also can't forget about J.D. Brennan leading the squad with 61 tackles. All 3 seniors that have been tearing it up this year. Darien has given up big gains, which is their big flaw, but their consistency is key, making crucial 3rd and 4th down stops or even getting the big tackles for losses. These are 2 defensive-heavy teams, and I think once these teams take to the field for game day, it's going to be a defensive battle.
Certainly, Braden. Let's not forget about the coaches. Lou Marinelli, the longtime New Canaan legend, Mike Forget, in his 2nd year as head coach for the Wave, trying to lead them back to the playoffs. We talked to both of them about the Turkey Bowl, so let's see what they had to say.
It's a huge game because it's always against, rival New Canaan. Anytime we can beat them, it's fantastic. Last year was... was a little disappointing that we lost on Thanksgiving, but we turned around a week and a half later and we beat them, went on to win a state championship. So we'll take that over Turkey Bowl anytime. But, this year it's about the Turkey Bowl and getting into the playoffs, and, it's a huge game for us.
I think this game is all that's good about high school football. It's 2 really solid communities come together to watch their team play on Thanksgiving. It's such a great tradition. There'll be a big crowd. The kids at Darien are looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it. But it's always so exciting. It's just a great venue.
This year's game slated to have some of the highest stakes we've seen for a Turkey Bowl in a long time, and I think we're both just anxious to get it started. But for now, that should do it here from High School Game Day at the Stadium Field. For Braden Schenck, I'm Dylan DeRiso. Special thanks to our advisor, Damian Andrew, and we cannot wait to see you all on Thanksgiving morning.